Welcome to All In, the podcast dedicated to underdog athletes who are all in on making it to the next level. In order to access your full potential, you have to channel your inner jump man, your mama smash, your prime time. We're going to help you by curating lessons from legends who were once in your shoes and sharing stories from the stars of tomorrow before they make it to the top. So without further ado, let's dive in. All right, guys, episode 1. Welcome to the All In podcast. I am one of your hosts, Conrad Cornell, the co-founder and CEO of Press Sports, and I'm here with our head of cheerleading, Chloe Cleveland, our head of volleyball, Alexander Schinzing, and our producer, Ethan Ryter. So, Chloe, why don't you intro yourself? We're going to go through intros of who's going to be on this podcast hosting it, and then we are going to talk a little bit about what you're going to see from us in the coming months and years.
Yeah, of course. So I'm Chloe Cleveland. I'm from Atlanta, and I've been in cheerleading for about 10 years now as an athlete and as an all-star cheerleading coach. I work with Stingrays primarily, and currently coach the Stingray All-Stars Orange and run all of the head marketing and social media for that organization. I have been around the block a couple times, won some big competitions, lost some big competitions. So I feel like I have a good handle on the cheer world and can't wait to kind of share that with you all through all the athletes that use our app and have moved from all-star or high school cheerleading into college and wherever after.
Chloe, were you a flyer or a base?
I was base for the all-star group. School's a little different. School, they can kind of put you wherever they want. So I flew for school, base for all the all-star travel teams.
Do you ever drop anyone?
Oh, for sure. Part of the process.
Yeah, it's tough.
Conrad would never.
Oh, I'd definitely drop people. for sure.
Just throw them away.
Whoops. Alexander, why don't you give some background?
So yeah, I'm Alexander. Been in the volleyball world as a coach for about 12 years now. Originally from Florida, but live here in Charlotte now. I played collegiately for 3 years at North Greenville University in South Carolina, very small school, middle of nowhere, and then played as a grad student at Queen's University of Charlotte, which was a great experience, being able to be that older guy in a newer program and kind of set that standard for them. And then making that shift into the press sports world of kind of being able to continue to help athletes and get their story out there, get them seen, and just provide them with the tools that they need to be successful is kind of what I've been all about my whole career. Also being in the recruiting coordinator role for a while, it kind of all just fits together.
You have a pretty good time in recruiting coming out of high school?
Yeah, so it was a very unique journey. Definitely only contacted one school, and it was the first school that I contacted that I ended up committing to, which does not happen often, but it just felt like a good fit. It was a newer program, and it was what I wanted out of it, coming into a new program, setting that standard and building from the ground up is really what I wanted, going in knowing that with 12 freshmen on the team, we weren't necessarily going to win a lot, but we were going to be able to build a program that could win down the road. And that really resonated with me.
Nice. And then Ethan, our, the producer that's making all this happen. What, just you're pretty new to the company. How long have you been here? What were you up to before?
Yeah, I've been here for I think it's maybe 2 or 3 weeks at this point. I graduated from Arizona State University with a sports journalism degree, so I did a lot of covering sports on the West Coast. I'm originally from Georgia. That's where I currently am now, just outside of Atlanta in a town called Decatur. And I have loved sports my whole life. I played soccer my whole life, so I'm a big soccer nerd. I've watched soccer my whole life as well, and so that's kind of my go-to sport. But as I've grown, I've fallen in love with almost every sport possible, whether it be basketball, football, baseball, or cornhole, anything that kind of gets the blood going. Whether I'm playing it or watching it, it's nothing more electric than some cornhole on ESPN. But no, I've loved sports, and I really have kind of grown to realize that it's more than just a hobby. It's more than something that's fun, and it's something that can legitimately change lives and help people get to where they want to be, whether it be on the field or off of it. And I think Press Sports is something doing exactly that. And I think this podcast is going to be able to share some pretty awesome stories where people are changing their lives, whether it be through the app or through kind of what they're doing on the field and being able to present it on the app. I think it's going to be awesome to be able to share those stories, and I'm just happy to be here.
That's what I'm excited about too, man.
So, Ethan, who's your team in the Premier League then?
The Premier League, I am a Liverpool fan. Above me is a Steven Gerrard jersey, so I've been a Liverpool fan. There was a guy named Lucas Leiva in 2008 moved to Liverpool, and my dad wanted us to kind of figure out what team we should start watching, and he wanted to make it easier for us to follow, because anyone who gets into soccer knows that it's all over the place. So if you don't have kind of a way to follow it, it can get confusing even for people watching on a regular basis. So my brother's name was Lucas, so a guy named Lucas moved to Liverpool, and my dad suggested we watch him, and we've watched them ever since.
Love it.
So quick background, we started Press Sports in college, and the idea for it was kind of born as a result of a pretty brutal experience in recruiting, and kind of just, coming up, my dream was always to play college baseball, but I graduated with no offers, like, hundreds of thousands of kids every single year. And I was good enough to play. Should have probably had a handful of mid-major offers, Division II, Division III JUCO, but I kind of had the wrong approach. Going out to coaches, didn't have the right game at the right time in front of a Power 5 school like I wanted to play at, and but I didn't quit. I kept playing after senior year and ended up getting a scholarship just like a month before school started. And so freshman year, went to play at Mercer University, and the rest was kind of history. 4 years later, we won a couple conference championships, played with a ton of guys who ended up making it to the bigs. Well, not a ton, 3, but, really good baseball. And, was kind of talking with my teammates at the end of our careers, like, where's all of our highlights? None of us really felt comfortable posting them on Instagram. And by the end, kind of TikTok was starting to become a thing, and we would retweet stuff, but that was mixed in with a bunch of other things that we retweeted. And so we just didn't kind of have a collection of all the best memories back from like to middle school at all the different sports, football, baseball, wrestling, did a little bit of track, and, all the weightlifting in between and training. And it's like none of that stuff is together. And had it been, maybe things would have been different in recruiting. And so we built Press as a place where you could build a fan base of people who want to see your sports highlights. And we launched a day after graduation, senior year, and started hustling. I got a job stacking luggage at the airport before we could pay ourselves for, it was 18 months before we raised any money, and started building the community. We got a lot of great athletes on here. There's been 29 first-round draft picks over the 4 years we've been doing this, over 10,000 committed college athletes. And we're just trying to build a great community of athletes sharing their highlights and connecting with each other, as well as coaches, and providing them tools to get better exposure. And so that's kind of the background on me.
Yeah, you've seen people use this app now after you've created it, and you talk about kind of your experience, and an experience that maybe wasn't the greatest in regards to how you kind of described it. How do you think your journey as an athlete maybe would have changed if you were able to use the Press Sports app?
I think, the college coach directory in general would have been a huge thing for me, because I never wanted to pay for any of these recruiting services. And so I couldn't either. And I didn't know what my options were at the D2 junior college level. And so having this as a tool and having all my stuff together in one profile would have been huge for me. And so, we're just trying to build something for the next wave of athletes that we wish was around for us is really kind of the core of it.
I like that. And I think something you mentioned where all of your highlights, gameplay, training, practice, all that stuff being in the same place is so key. You look at a lot of the social media, I guess, world, and people kind of split up where they put things. And then you look at the breakdown of where college coaches are. Again, they're pretty split up, but to have it dedicated to sports, one place, everything goes there. That's something I wish I had. I never posted any highlights on social media because it was so spread out. I wish I had something very concise. So that was a good point.
Well, I was gonna say we have so many people in the gym at Stingrays at least, and then in cheerleading where it's like if you don't make that big SEC team or if you don't make that like big game day kind of look, then you feel kind of like, well, am I just not gonna cheer? You're like, well, I'll just go to school then, like forget it, and not knowing that there's some D1 programs that aren't necessarily in the ACC or SEC to cheer at, and or D2 programs that like are incredible, but you just kind of forget about it. They get lost because you don't see them anywhere. You don't see them on TV. You don't see them. You have to go find them to watch the live stream of whatever they're competing at. But it's cool. There's opportunities. You can kind of go through and look, and you're like, I didn't even know these people existed. Like, I don't know. I really like the directory because like I would have had no idea where to look if I had like seen. I went to UGA, so it's like you see UGA, South Carolina, Alabama, and then after that, you're kind of like, now what do I do? So that's been real good to like get through there and like kind of see these kids like use that directory, whereas that wasn't something that my age group really considered.
It's interesting you bring that up too, because I think recruiting wise and players trying to get committed, no matter what the sport is, you always hear no one knows what to do. And it feels like the more information you can give about recruiting, about committing to different schools, about your options, as you said, the more better off a lot of athletes are going to be that really do deserve an opportunity. So not only giving them a platform to showcase themselves and why they deserve that opportunity, but then also being able to give tips along the way and just more information, making it more available for athletes to have when they're in that recruiting process can make all the difference.
Oh, for sure.
100%. But, another big thing is like, it's definitely not just for recruiting. I mean, we have a ton of middle school athletes who love just being able to post their highlights somewhere where they can feel confident doing it and know that they're not going to get roasted. And then we have a ton of, committed high school athletes and college athletes that continue to post their stuff because at the end of the day, like some people might have that 4K post that you want to share on Instagram of a epic highlight, but most people don't. And even the ones who do, like the most elite athletes, like they don't want to post all of their highlights on the Instagram page. And oftentimes we see it all the time is you get to the next level and you go back and you take down some of that stuff. Well, like a lot of kids still look up to you and want to go back and be able to see your middle school, your early on in high school highlights and kind of see that journey of your progression. And so it's just as much so for, people that aren't necessarily looking for recruiting and just want a really awesome sports community to share their journey with.
Okay, so I never actually thought about that point before you just said that. But if you look at the difference between press sports and, social media is what it was before, it's so much of a perception thing on the social media side. You don't really, if you look at some really, really, I guess, viral people, they don't have a progression of the journey of their life for the most part. You don't see the bad times. You don't see the messy or the mistakes or the failures or the bloopers or whatever. But then on sports, that's what it's all about, from where you started and then where you are now, where you made it to, and all the process, the training, the losses, everything in between. You're able to record that and see that journey. And, I never thought about that before. And I think that kind of sets it apart from what social media is. You mentioned people going back and kind of deleting their old posts. They don't want to look bad. They don't want to have the bloopers on there because people might make fun of them or think poorly of them or something. But to see that journey from the start to finish I think that's what it's all about. I mean, I wish I had more video of when I started and then all the way through club into collegiate career. I wish I had that.
Yeah, putting it together in one place is key. So that's kind of what we built. And shifting gears a little bit, moving into this podcast is, the goal of this is to bring on legendary athletes, as well as coaches, and also, young athletes that are going to be the stars of tomorrow, and get them to share their story. For the legendary athletes, what do they do different from athletes that maybe had the same potential as them and that didn't make it as far in their careers? And for the young athletes, sharing their story, and what motivates them, and what are they doing now to get better, and what's their vision for their career before they make it to the top. And so that's going to be really exciting. I think we're going to get a lot of amazing, young athletes on here, and professional athletes and college athletes as well.
And I think that's key to seeing those different levels and the stories, and the high school athletes that are going into college and hearing their story going into recruiting, and then the collegiate athlete hearing the other side of it, what they wish they had done better, and then even in the professional or recreational level, especially on the volleyball side of things, where there's not a very big professional scene in the United States, but there's a huge recreational scene at a high level too. You get to see all those stories.
100%. All right, guys. Well, one thing is we're not going to have long, drawn-out episodes. We want to keep them short. Just be respectful of everyone's time, and hopefully you guys continue to come back and want to watch more of them, because they're not taking up an hour of your time. And so we'll cut it here. We're out on episode number 1. Thanks so much for tuning in, and excited to bring you guys episode number 2 with Ole Miss commit Slade Caldwell, and baseball is going to be our first guest. We got a lot more coming on after that. He's a top 10 ranked prospect in his class, and he's got a lot of cool stuff to share. So that's it from All In episode 1. See ya.
See you guys.
Thanks for listening to the All In podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode or you're new to the show, we'd love to have you subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss an episode. And if you like the show, we'd be grateful if you left us a review on Apple Podcasts. You can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Press Sports, and of course sign up for the app by downloading Press Sports on the App Store or Play Store today. Until we catch up again, we hope you continue pushing the envelope to get closer to reaching your goal as an athlete. Thank you for listening.